I think it's really obvious that living standards in the UK have fallen consistently over the last 25 years. When we think about falling living standards, we might immediately think about having less money than we did before, not having access to an NHS dentist, having to navigate a minefield of potholes every time you get into your car. But we should also think about things that are consistently moving behind some kind of paywall. Things that used to be free, even just a few years ago, but now they're not. Instead, someone somewhere is squeezing money out of you to line their own pockets. Lol, capitalism. TV coverage of the Champions League is yet another example of this. You might have seen in the news before this year's final that if you wanted to watch, for the first time in the modern era of football, you had to pay. Today I want to talk about this and why it's yet another example that life in the UK is getting worse. The UEFA Champions League, the most important club competition for football teams in Europe. Actually, on the UEFA website, they call it the world's greatest club competition. If you want to watch the best teams with the best players playing each other, chances are it's going to be a Champions League game. This season, there have been some absolute cracking games between some of the top teams. Juventus 4, Dortmund 4. Olympiacos 3, Real Madrid 4. PSG 5, Chelsea 2. Bayern Munich 4, Real Madrid 3. PSG 5, Bayern Munich 4. Sadly, if you wanted to legally watch any of these games on TV in the UK, you would have needed to pay. TNT Sports had the rights to the majority of games, but Amazon Prime also had the rights to show 17 matches, with first pick of matches played on Tuesday evenings. Confused yet? What would that mean for your wallet? Well, TNT Sports costs £30.99 a month, though it drops to £25.99 a month if you commit to a 12-month plan. It's worth pointing out, though, that Champions League matches are not played 12 months of the year. When it comes to Amazon, right now, Amazon Prime costs £95 a year, or £8.99 a month. Oof, so it's a bit spenny if you want to watch the Champions League. None of the games are on free-to-air TV, but it wasn't always this way. Growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, I was living every teenage boy's dream. I had my own little TV in my bedroom, and I had my choice of 5 TV channels that I could watch. Yes, back then we got 5 free TV channels, and that was your lot. But that was fine, because Champions League games were shown for free on terrestrial TV. In the year 2000, on Wednesday nights, ITV broadcast the main live match of the night, for free, which was pretty normal for my 16-year-old self, because the season before that and the season before that, games were shown on ITV, for free. I got to see many classic moments. In the 1999 final, Manchester United scored 2 very late goals in one of the greatest comebacks of all time. Perhaps this was only bettered by Liverpool recovering from 3-0 down against AC Milan in 2005. That was also shown on ITV, for free. Zinedine Zidane scored his outrageous volley in a final against Leverkusen in 2002, which was also shown on ITV, for free. I remember trying to recreate some of these moments with my mates on the school playing fields. My school was a pretty standard comprehensive school. Some of us lived in council houses. Others lived in houses that their parents owned. Some of us lived in big houses in the countryside. But no matter your background, you saw the game because it was shown on ITV, for free. So here we have some inequality that didn't exist 25 years ago. If you can afford TNT Sports and you think it represents good value, you can watch Happy Days. If you can't afford it, bad luck. If I was growing up now, I wouldn't be able to watch. I'd have to settle for watching the free highlights after the fact. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, is he still Prime Minister when you're watching this? He wrote to the broadcaster asking that they strongly reconsider and that they show the final for free, which traditionally has always been the case. In a statement, TNT Sports said, "It has been a privilege." Yeah, I'm not reading all that. I'm happy for you though, or I'm sorry that happened. Okay, fine, I will. It has been a privilege to bring UEFA club competitions to sports fans across the UK throughout the season. So what? What does that have to do about charging fans to see the final for the first time in a modern era? Having 3 Premier League clubs reach the finals shows the strength of English football and something that we're proud to continue to support. Again, so what? Can we stop with the propaganda and get to the point, please? We have made all 3 UEFA finals this year available from just £4.99. The price for a month-long subscription to HBO Max that includes the great entertainment on the service. This represents exceptional value for fans to watch the conclusion of the competitions. Now, to me, that completely misses the point. People already need to pay for a TV license to watch live TV. They may already be paying for Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV. Okay, I doubt they're paying for Apple TV. They may already pay for Sky. They might have YouTube Premium. And here's just one more thing on top that they need to pay. It's just £4.99 a month. £4.99 a month that you didn't need to pay last year. It doesn't matter that there's a cost of living crisis, that there's been wave after wave of inflation since COVID, that energy prices surged after Russia attacked Ukraine, that Trump has caused unnecessary economic shocks with tariffs and then a ridiculous war on Iran. It's £4.99 now for something that used to be free. Lol, capitalism. The result is that society's divided even further. There's people who can pay for it, and then there are people that can't. For people that can't, their living standards are now worse than they were a year ago. Most people hold the belief that they want their children to be able to have a better life than the one that they have. Well, if you grew up in the 90s, like I did, and you have kids of your own, here is just one way that their lives are worse than yours. I've got hundreds more examples, so subscribe to the channel to hear me rant about these in the future. In the 90s, I was watching Champions League games on the little TV in my bedroom for free. Unless mum and dad are going to open their wallets, that is not an option for kids these days. So, we've established this sucks, but what can we do? The good news is, I think there's a lot that we can do. Firstly, tell people how you feel. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your neighbours, tell your children, tell that bloke down at the pub. Society was not always this way. Living standards did not fall off a cliff overnight. The huge inequality that you see in society is the result of a lot of small steps that have happened year after year. Each one of these can be easy to overlook. So tell people this is another example of how your child will not live a better life than the one that you are living. Next, remember this when there are local and national elections. Which parties are talking about inequality? Which ones aren't? Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. It's been pretty dire since they've come to power, but the Prime Minister has at least spoken up about this. On the other hand, he is an Arsenal fan. Would he care if it was Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Aston Villa? Nigel Farage, nothing to say. Kemi Badenoch, no. Ed Davey, Zach Polanski. If you don't see that the average person on the street is unhappy about this, you are out of touch. Tell your MP, seriously, you are their constituent. They were elected to represent your interests. So tell them. You can email or write a letter if you're an old man like me. Make an appointment for one of their surgeries. There are 650 MPs in this country. If all of them have constituents telling them that they're unhappy, you just might see some change. Maybe we can go back to the days of having Champions League football on free-to-air TV every week. And why stop there? Why not have one Premier League game from every round of fixtures broadcast on free-to-air TV? There have never been Premier League games on free-to-air TV. Voila! This means that your child does have a better life than you have, at least when it comes to football. Now let's do child poverty. If you try to reach your MP and nothing, please don't vote for them again. We elect them to represent our interests. If you can't get in contact, if they can't be bothered to reply, then they only care about their own interests, and they can get in a bin. What else can you do? Boycott TNT Sports. Boycott HBO Max. Seriously. This will hurt them a lot. People sometimes have this idea that there's no point in boycotting a company because it needs everyone to do it to be successful. Nope. Actually, most companies are trying to grow by 3 or 4% a year, every year. So, if instead of growing, they see 5% of their customers leaving, that is a disaster. Shareholders become unhappy, the share price falls, the higher-ups get pushed out, The people that follow them then, they feel pressure to move in a different direction. When companies are greedy and only care about making as much money as possible, the most effective thing that you can do is deprive them of some of that money. So cancel TNT Sports, HBO Max, cancel, or downgrade to a cheaper plan. It's the only way that they will learn. Finally, according to Reddit, you could, shiver me timbers, matey. You could sail the seven seas, whatever that means. Probably best if you use an ad blocker and a VPN if you already have one. I mean, Polly want a cracker? So there you have it. The Champions League final is no longer on free-to-air TV for the first time ever. Now you need to pay. Just another example of growing inequality in the UK. I'll see you next time.